Hello, everyone. Michael Jordan fans are the best. And today we're going to be talking about if there are shades of the past in the modern NBA players. But first, before we get into that, let's welcome back Robin, Sports and Fitness Rants. How are you today, sir?
Welcome back. Yes, my friends. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to my man Dar. Shout out to my man Hoop God. Yes, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's roll.
And we've got Hoop God, who just did a fantastic debate yesterday with Bill Russell versus Shaquille O'Neal. How are you today, sir?
Man, I'm great. I actually enjoyed that dialogue between me and the gentleman. It When I thought about it, there was a couple more points that I didn't get to touch on, but I mean that's fine because you're not gonna remember everything. But no, I enjoyed it, man. Just having like those dialogues like that was dope.
Absolutely. Uh, but yeah, so for the topic, um, there's been a lot of comparisons, excuse me, lately with players of today versus players of old. And let's just start off with the elephant in the room. Robin, do you think that Anthony Edwards is anything like Michael Jordan?
Coming out swinging right here. My man Anthony Edwards, man. I just did a video about Anthony Edwards and the comparisons to Michael Jordan. And the thing that I respect about Anthony Edwards about and when as it relates to the comparisons is that he always said that he didn't, want the comparisons with Michael Jordan and how he, recognized Michael Jordan as the greatest basketball player of all time. And I've always said it's not really important about if he really believes that or not. It's about the fact that he understands that Michael Jordan is the standard. Michael Jordan is the bar. So for the comparisons, he understands they're not really valid. And I've always said there's no one that's come along that's really compared to Michael Jordan. And no one really should be compared to Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan is the pinnacle, right? Once again, like we've always said on this channel, he's the bar, man. He's the standard. And it's not just in basketball. It's across all sports. Michael Jordan is that dude. But when we think about Anthony Edwards, man, I like his game. You know what I'm saying? I like his attitude. I like his mentality. You know what I'm saying? He's been saying the right things. When we think about a lot of the players of this era, and when we say, can they get back to that old school type of respect? That's what it's about. It's about the way they approach the game, the mentality of the approach. Because a lot of these guys were being criticized for being load managers. These guys are lazy. They want all the money, but they don't want to give all the effort. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these guys were being known as floppers and all these things. So we always question the heart of a lot of these guys, the grit, the willingness, the love of the game. You know what I'm saying? So for me, Anthony Edwards does seem to play with the love of the game. He seems to have that game, but he's not anywhere compared to a Michael Jordan.
Oop, God, what do you got to say about all that?
Yeah. So to echo what Sports and Fitness Rants was expressing. Now, I believe that yes, Ant-Man he does have some measurables that can be compared to Michael Jordan. But again, I would say when you start to initiate that conversation, right, the bar is here. Ant-Man is somewhere down here. Now, can he get there? He's 22, possibly because he's got a lot of upside. But I get it because the way the media is, they have to build up the next guy. And ultimately, they've been searching for their replacement since Kobe Bean Bryant. Unfortunately, they failed at every turn because the current guy, he wasn't going to live up to it. I mean, from day one, we saw it. No. But Ant-Man, I do love the humbleness, the respect for the past generation. But I also like his competitiveness because when they ask, do you think he can beat you one-on-one? He's like, hell no, point blank. Didn't stutter, didn't mince any words. And that's what I appreciate as a viewer because it kind of put me in mind of Kobe. Whenever Stephen A. and all those other guys like, hey, you think you could? And remember Stephen A. He said it on First Take. He was like, yeah, Kobe Bryant said, man, he said, call him, ask him. I told him, I kick his you know what. What did Stephen A. say? He called up Mike, and Mike said, yeah, he said that to me. And it's like, see, that's what I think people don't understand. Like these casuals out here be like, oh, he said he could beat Michael Jordan, but y'all don't understand. That's what the competitors want you to say. They want you to say that you can beat them because now they know, okay, he got it up here. But if you get out there on the court and you trying to be all nice and chummy, it's not going to respect you. And at the end of the day, nice guys always finish last. And what I like about Ant-Man, when he loses, he don't make no excuses. Hey, y'all put that on me. Y'all seen what happened in Game 7 against the Nuggets? Because I predicted Denver to beat them, but clearly Minnesota Timberwolves Ant-Man, they had something else in store for us. But yeah, I believe he does have a lot of the Michael Jordan measurables and some of his characteristics, but ultimately, until he starts to hoist up that Larry O'Brien, he got a long way to go. So to sum it up, yeah, he does have some. So I would give him, what would you guys say a good estimate? To give him about 1/5 of Michael Jordan, maybe 1/5, 1/4. I don't want to go too far, but I want to give him a little bit,
A drop.
I'll take that.
AOH, this is not 911. Are you okay?
I'm okay. I just found
AOH, you out there in nature, big dog. I like it.
Word, what up, man?
What up? Morning, guys.
Beautiful scene. And I hope your trip is going well. I don't know if you caught the question, but do you think there's any shades of Michael Jordan and Anthony Edwards?
Shades. I mean, this just speaks to the desperation level we have of wanting there to be another Michael Jordan. I mean, if someone doesn't complain all the time and acts competitive, now we're ready to say, oh, he's the next Michael Jordan. This is how bad it's gotten. Yeah, I don't want to. I was watching Game 1, and I found myself like criticizing everything that Ant-Man was doing, but that's because of this premature desire to make him Michael Jordan. And I'll tell you what, when Ant-Man talks, because he does talk, and I guess there's nothing wrong with talking, but it's easy to talk brave when you have an army behind you, because that Minnesota team is an army. And they talk about the 1988 Jordan. Isn't that the stupid comparison they made? They're like, this is the 1988 Michael Jordan that we see in Ant-Man. Yeah, what army did Michael Jordan have in 1988? He was a one-man army. So if he talks, then he is the one who has to back it up. I'm watching Ant-Man's teammates carry the bulk of the burden here. Maybe I'm not watching well enough, but you're seeing Ant-Man have to dish off, looking for other people to make some bigger shots. He's having some of those LeBron-like crucial turnovers and crucial moments, and then here we are in the league. We have people making excuses for a 39-year-old being tired, while simultaneously making excuses for a 22-year-old being tired. Like, where are we going to draw the line? Is this just what happens when you decide to anoint somebody, where you start making the excuses? Even if he doesn't say it himself, the media is ready to put the narrative out there. It's just too soon. Whatever happened to making somebody earn it for a while before you start anointing them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, I forgot to put the chat overlay on. I always do this. I always flip back and forth. Chat, here you are. You're back on the show. My bad.
I want to say something about what my man LH was just speaking on. I want to touch on, we're talking about the too soon, how we talk about, the comparisons. This is what I was alluding to with Anthony Edwards, and how he understands that the comparisons with Michael Jordan are valid, and that he doesn't want to be compared to a Michael Jordan, because anyone really knows, if you know the game and you know the deal, you can't really compare what Michael Jordan did as a rookie coming into the league with that's really part of the problem for a lot of these players who want to catch, or quote unquote catch, Michael Jordan, is that a lot of people don't understand Michael Jordan came into the NBA sprinting, man. He came into the NBA full force, man. No, his game wasn't the most well-rounded it was going to be. He didn't have the most well-passed game the way that he would develop. But he came into the NBA, man, just on a tear, man. I mean, when you think about the impact he had culturally, the sneaker deal, his flashy game, the slam dunk contest, the swag of Michael Jordan coming in, leading the NBA in total points, leading his team in all the categories, carrying them to the playoffs, all the 40-point games, the 30-point games, the heroics, all the flash, everything. People don't understand. It's impossible to duplicate that. The one thing I'll give Anthony Edwards as it relates to the comparisons with some of the games, some of the pizzazz, is the mindset that he seemed to has maybe rubbed off on a guy like a Karl Anthony Towns or Rudy Gobert. Because let's not forget, Karl Anthony Towns has been known as a complete goof, man, throughout his entire career. Remember Jimmy Butler, when he was there, was calling Anthony Towns, calling him out because he was saying he was soft, and he never showed up in the postseason. So the mentality that Anthony Edwards has given to someone like a Karl Anthony Towns or Rudy Gobert, who we all know is considered soft in the NBA, this is one thing that I think he's compared to a Michael Jordan, so to speak, because Michael Jordan had that mentality and it rubbed off on the players around him. Anthony Edwards has given these guys confidence, man. They're the reason why they can go out there and pump their chest out and feel good now. Because where was Karl Anthony Towns all these other years? He was never there, man. He was always shrinking in the moment. Same thing with Rudy Gobert.
Hey, I
How do
wanted
we
to.
know?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but how do we know that for sure? Because that's also a nice story for the media to tell that Anthony Edwards brought that. But we don't know that for sure, do we? Or maybe
Well,
we do.
he's the one in the post-game press conference. He's the one saying, like I said, he don't want the comparisons. He's the one, like who guy was saying earlier. He's the one that'll come to the post-game press conference and put the ownership on himself. He won't blame anybody else. He won't blame an injury. He won't blame the competition, none of these kinds of things. So for me, I think you're right when you say the comparisons are not valid. They're too early. They should not be comparing Anthony Edwards to Michael Jordan in 1989 or 1988 or 1998 or even Michael Jordan on the Wizards. They should not be comparing this man to.
I mean, he scored 1 billion points with me when he showed the sense to say, don't compare me to Jordan. Whereas you have a Ja Morant saying, I would smoke Jordan when Ja has done even less than Edwards has. So, yeah, I mean, Edwards scored a lot of points with me with that alone.
So what I was seeing in the chat, I want to give the people credit who said this, which I think it's a pretty accurate. I think it's a good comparison to utilize this. John Pettit, he said right now Ant-Man is more like D Wade until he proves more. And then TK Loke, he said Kobe Bean Bryant was the closest thing to Jordan, which I do agree. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think we should utilize tiers, right? So once Ant-Man can clear the D Wade tier, then he can get to the Kobe Bryant tier, because I feel as if Michael Jordan, much like the video games we played back in the day, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Michael Jordan is the final boss. So I think that would be an accurate way to measure him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, he gets that one chip, that's the D Wade tour, like he did in 06, right? That's the tier. Okay, he gets a 3-peat. Kobe Bryant tier. 2 3-peats, Michael Jordan territory. So I like that, man. Shout out to the chat. I like how y'all broke that down.
I don't think he's even close as of right now. I don't think he's even close to D Wade.
I agree.
So I mean, that's just me. I mean, I think it's good to try and compare him to something else, but I mean, D Wade was a monster. What did he score in that final series? Like in the mid-30s for the
30. He was 35 points per game, and he was like 48% or something from the field. He dude was on fire. Now, granted, people say he's a free throw merchant, but much like the gentleman yesterday, hey, you got to make the shots, and he made them, so you can't be mad.
On a sidebar, Cat was mentioned. I saw a funny video of that. The 5 zestiest moments of Karl Anthony Towns.
Oh wow!
Oh, it was hilarious. But anyway, past that. With Ant Edwards, for me, to the point that I was just getting to, I don't really think he's that close to Michael Jordan right now, outside of maybe being his son. That conspiracy theory. They do look an awful lot alike, even with their like the not to get down that rabbit hole, because I'm not going to say that he is his son, but they even got like the cheekbones and the eyes and all of that sort of stuff. They look really similar. However, like all of you are pretty much saying, it's way too premature to just say that he is a lot like Michael Jordan. One thing I will give him credit to is watching him over the Nuggets Timberwolves series. He was fun to watch, and it looked like he was really fast. It looked like he just would get wherever he wanted to for the most part. And so that was cool, like Mike, but I don't think it's close. I think it's and again, to what all of you are saying and especially with that Brian Windhorst comparison that he's 1988 Michael Jordan. It was the most ridiculous. It's such a stretch, man. You know what I mean? It's like they're and I think it was Aways who said just how desperate they are to try and find the next the next Mike. To me, it was pathetic in a way. I think it was embarrassing and in some ways. Well, actually, I think very much so disrespectful to 1988 Michael Jordan. To say that Anthony Edwards was even close to that level of Michael Jordan, that's just that's very much an exaggeration and hyperbole. In no way was he anywhere close to 1988 Michael Jordan outside of he got farther in the playoffs.
I knew this was going to come up, and I meant to have my stats prepared, but I didn't. I'm out here hiking instead. But maybe Hoops God, you're pretty good with this old data. You know, Anthony Edwards can oftentimes enjoy not being the leading scorer on the team with the talent that he has.
Right.
Was there any point in time in 1988 that Michael Jordan wasn't the leading scorer?
Hell no.
Okay. I mean, any time at all.
Hey, oh wait, I also want to substantiate that because we keep and shout out to Scottie Pippen as a basketball player, was a great player, but they always say Jordan never got out the first round. I'm like, okay, well, how much contributions did Pippen give? Because he was coming off the bench and wasn't even giving you 8 points per game. So I don't know. Help me out with that math. You know, they love to just throw that narrative out there.
Oh, they just repeat shit that they hear. They don't bother to see for themselves whether it's valid.
So here's another guy that they've been giving some reference to. Actually, two guys, but we'll stick with the guy that they've been saying it more recently about. A lot of people in the news are saying that Nikola Jokic is a lot like Larry Bird. What do you think about that comparison, Robin? Do you think that he is like Larry Bird? Do you think he's close to Larry Bird? Do you think he's closer to Larry Bird than Ant Edwards is to Michael Jordan?
Oh man, this. I don't know. Listen. Let me say something right now. When we talk about Larry Bird, man, once again, for me, Larry Bird he was sensational, man. One of the things that I think that we need to mention or we need to remember about Larry Bird, man, is the trash talk of Larry Bird. All right, man, the competitor that this man is. Right, Nikola Jokic, and I'm not saying he's not a competitor. The man's obviously a competitor and stuff like that. But he don't really invoke that same kind of swag, man, as Larry Bird, man. You know what I'm saying? Larry Bird was out there telling you what he was going to do, and he was going to do it to you. Larry Bird was out there shooting games with his left hand, like, because he wanted to do these things. To me, Larry Bird, his all-around game, the leadership of Larry Bird, the way that he galvanizes people, man, and even his defensive abilities, to me, separate him from someone like a Nikola Jokic. And this don't take away none from Nikola Jokic. To me, he's one of the greats. But see, you know what? I want to talk about something real quick. It's funny that you brought that up because I want to talk about something because it actually pertains to this. My man Scap Attack, he did a video and he was talking about the help that these players have and the help that they haven't had. And in the video, he brought up Larry Bird and all the other MVPs over the last 40 years, I believe he compared. And you know what? I think a lot of people, they forget to mention when they talk about Magic Johnson, he brought up all the MVPs and how much help they have. And he made this claim based off of the all-star teammates they had, the all-defensive teammates they had, and the all-NBA teammates they had. And in that video, he mentioned how Jokic never had any help as it pertains to any of those categories. He's never played with a player that's made an all-star selection, a player that's made an all-NBA and all-defensive. But one of the glaring things in that video that struck out to me when he mentioned how many players that Magic Johnson played with that had those such accolades, or how many players Larry Bird played against that had that such accolade, is that they're forgetting that this was not Larry Bird out there playing with Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, Bill Walton, playing with these great players and out there going against the 2023 Miami Heat. Those are not the teams that he was facing in the NBA Finals, okay? The teams that he was facing in the NBA Finals had the same amount of stacked talent he played with. So when Scap Attack talks about the amount of help that these players have had compared to others, these guys were matched. It was negating each other. What was the difference in those championship games? It was Larry Bird's play, the leadership of Larry Bird. It was Magic Johnson coming through with the play. It was the leadership of these players. They were the ones. They were the X factors. They were the leaders. Nikola Jokic is a great player, man. No doubt about it. And yes, he's never played with some great name, talent names per se. But when you think about the team that he beat in the NBA Finals, what are we really talking about here? He beat the Miami Heat that were a number 8 seed that got it on a play-in. Am I really supposed to be impressed when you have Jamal Murray? How many game winners did Jamal Murray hit this season against the Los Angeles Lakers? He had 2 game winners in a first-round matchup. He's never made an all-star team. How many game winners did Scottie Pippen hit from Michael Jordan? He made all these all-star selections, all these all-NBA teams. He ain't hit no damn game winners in the playoffs for Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. Does that mean that Jamal Murray's been greater than Scottie Pippen? No. And I know I'm rambling on right now, but when we talk about Larry Bird, the level of competition that Larry Bird went against, he went against the Dr. J's. He went against the James Worthies. He went against the Bernard Kings, the Dominique Wilkins, the Adrian Dantleys. He went against these guys, man, and he battled against the greats, and he came out on top more often than not. So much respect to Nikola Jokic, but he can't be compared to Larry Bird, man.
Real fast, I just
and the Rooster knows that.
Yeah, the Rooster knows it. I forgot that I had the super chat up here. Pierre Lynch has super chatted me. Welcome, sir. He says, "Hey Dart, how are you and the family? We're doing great. I'm gonna be homed. That Rooster's up on a tree doing that right now on a sidebar. But I'm gonna be in my new house in the near future, so that is great. I thought something might have happened. I haven't seen you in a while, but thank you for the super chat, sir. Hoopka, what do you got to say about what Robin had to say?
Yeah, when you break it down like that, yeah, see that to me, that's what separates Bird from a Jokic, because when as Sports and Fitness Rants was bringing that up, I was thinking like, yo, there's 2 NBA Finals where Larry Bird significantly out-rebounded Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which I know a lot of those casuals out there don't even know that when we're having these discussions, because that's one of the many reasons I have Bird as the greatest small forward of all time. But yes, Larry Bird was ultimately the one who, when they beat those Celtics, it was because of him and it was his play. Whether it be the game winner hit on Magic when he caught him and hit him with the fadeaway in Game 4, or it could be the game winner he hit against the Houston Rockets to seal that series in Game 6. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he recorded a triple-double. And then and this is another one. They love to bring up Larry Bird's 8-point game in the finals. I'm like, yeah, he had an 8-point game, but look at how he was a monster on the rebounds. Like, for some reason, they just forget that, like, that just doesn't exist. Because I have to tell them, like, how many of those rebounds do you think that gave Cedric Maxwell more opportunities to score? I mean, come on, let's just use our common sense for a minute, because I know those fans don't have common sense. But anywho, yes, Larry Bird was ultimately the X factor in those series. No, he didn't have a Jamal Murray to, take and make those clutch shots and things of that nature. Like, no, Bird could do that. He pretty much could do everything. And when I'm looking at them now, just on the surface level, yeah, they have a lot of comparisons. Unathletic. They're not fast per se, but they are quick. They both can think the game. They both can make excellent passes, and they won't beat themselves, and you can't speed them up. Now, when I'm looking at the impact, I say no, because Bird came to a Boston Celtic team that won 29 games. At that time, a league worst. Instantly turned them around into 61 wins and went on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, granted, it took Jokic a little time to, get his sea legs up under him. And then when he did finally get to that championship tier, yeah, he won, but look who he beat. It was a play-in team, Miami Heat, with like really no notable names over there. So it's kind of like, yeah, it is a premature comparison. Now, where I think they do compare is the accolades. We know Bird won 3 straight MVPs, which I feel like Jokic was robbed of a 3rd straight because they had to appeal to a big crybaby over there. Hey, no offense to your team, Dart. I'm just saying. But I think Jokic, yeah, he should have gotten that 3 straight MVPs, because that would have made the conversation even more comparable to say, yeah, Bird is the last one to win 3 straight MVPs. Now Jokic wins 3 straight MVPs. Talent-wise, I think they both got their advantages and disadvantages, where I would say Bird, to me, he had a better handle than Jokic. Not saying Jokic can't handle, but of course, Jokic is a bigger player, which he can dominate underneath the basket. But again, Larry Bird giving you 10 rebounds in an era where you could hand check, play physical defense, body up, all of that, to me, is very significant. And then not to mention, Larry Bird went 50, 40, 90. And I want to say the 1986 playoff run. I don't think Jokic just came close to that. But however, the previous year he won the championship, I believe he led the playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists, which Bird hasn't done. But Bird played in a different system. So I think they got a lot of similarities between the two. But ultimately, no, it's still Larry Bird because, I mean, you're taking down the Los Angeles Lakers, who are arguably a top 3 team or top 3 franchise of all
them on the
time.
bike trail.
Then you take down the Hakeem Olajuwon Houston Rockets that had the Twin Towers of Ralph Sampson and, of course, the Hakeem the Dream. And then he beat Moses Malone in the playoffs as well. And then you got to think, look who he had to go through to get there. The Bad Boy Pistons, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Celtics with Dr. J and Moses Malone again. So, no, I'm still going to give the edge to Bird, but Jokic, I would say he's making his case right now. Can he get 2 more championships? And, you know, can he ultimately be the X factor in some of these games and playoffs and not rely on Murray? Yet to be seen. So, yeah, I'm still going to give Bird the edge right now.
What do you got to say about that, AOH?
2 things. The athleticism part, you know, those guys don't fly through the air, but I sure see, as far as the slow thing, I see a lot of clips of Larry Bird taking people on with a first step.
Yeah.
I actually saw Jokic take Cat to the hole from the perimeter, but I want to go back to what Robin said about the swag and the leadership, and they did this to Kevin Durant too, ripping on him. And sometimes people say Steph Curry isn't the leader, but you don't always have to be the leader to be the killer. It's like Jokic is that good soldier who's going to go and do the dirty work. He's like your highly trained killer. Now you got the general who says who goes and kills who, but you're not going to win the battle without that super soldier. I think it's a narrative going around like, oh, you have to be all these things wrapped into one. You're not always going to be all those things wrapped into one. Sometimes you're the guy that just likes to go out and do the killing, but you don't have to hang the trophy up. And I wonder, I'll end this with a question. Do you guys think if Jokic had more swag, if he talked a little bit of trash, would that make him more popular or less popular?
It'd make him more popular.
So for me, I don't think it necessarily would, just because of his demeanor. He'd have to change his whole demeanor because he's not the type of guy that would talk trash. So it's like me talking trash to people. Maybe I could do it, but it ain't going to sound right, like versus Robin. Robin talking trash to somebody is going to be a lot more entertaining than me talking trash to somebody. I'm going to sound kind of goofy doing it. But did you want to answer real fast, Robin? I wanted to talk about something else, but do you want to answer?
I wanted to touch on what he's just saying right there. Listen, we can try to compare Nikola Jokic to a Tim Duncan as far as the way that they carry themselves, that quantity of strength, right?
There you go.
Wouldn't you say that Tim Duncan had more of a swag about him on the basketball court? He had more of an intimidating presence about him on the basketball court, Tim Duncan. And why is that? Because Tim Duncan was an anchor on the defensive end. See, that's a mentality right there in and of itself. You don't have to yell. You don't have to scream like Sports and Fitness Ranch does. You don't have to do any of those things. But Tim Duncan commanded a presence because of the way he was on the court. Not the way that he was off the court. Not with the way he dressed. Not with none of that stuff. So that's the one thing that Nikola Jokic needs to try to maybe emulate someone like a Tim Duncan, the way that he went about his business. I want to touch on one thing really quickly that I saw in the chat from my man YT Hoops. YT Hoops says something about, are we trying to say that Larry Bird had less help than Nikola Jokic? No, the point that I'm making about Larry Bird and the help that he did have is that it was no more or no less than what anyone else in his era had. That's the point. He was in a stack-heavy era with some of the top greatest teams in the history of the game. So when you think about that, you think about the Celtics, right? And you think about him going against who? The Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA Finals. They weren't going against, like I said, the 2023 Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero. They were going against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Michael Cooper. Like, Come on, what are we talking about here? So Larry Bird's teammates were no more, no less than the comp he went against. He was battling against Dr. J, Moses Malone, right? Andrew Turney, Maurice Cheeks, right? Some of these guys. He wasn't going against no bum teams. He was going against the Detroit Pistons with Isaiah Thomas and Dennis Rodman and Joe Dumars and Bill Laimbeer and James Edwards. These are some of the best teams in the history of the game. So when they talk about that help that Larry Bird did have, it wasn't that he had more of an advantage over anyone else and that he was playing against. That's how great those teams were. That's why what Michael Jordan was doing in the 80s was so impressive, because he was literally out there with nobody and he was putting in work. And everyone was like, how the hell is this guy doing that? That's why what he was doing was impressive. So to my man YT Hoops, that's the point that I'm making here, man. Ain't no one saying that Larry Bird didn't have no help or he had less help. Jokic, how much help does Jokic need when he's the MVP 3 times over and you're going against Jimmy Butler in the NBA Finals? How great is that team you're going against? The Denver Nuggets have never been battle-tested, man. When we talk about the mindset of Nikola Jokic and we talk about the swag, when your team is up 20 points in a game 7 on your home court, at some point there needs to be something about you that puts the foot down and is like, yo, listen up, dudes. We got to get our stuff together here.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention, I think as far as the demeanor and the personality, I think, he's more in line with Tim Duncan. The reason why I say that, I call Tim Duncan Mr. Stoic. They could be up by 10, same expression on his face. They could be down by 15, he got the same look on his face. Like Tim Duncan, you rarely seen him at a positive or a negative. He was neutral across the board until they won the championship. Then for some reason he started smiling. So I think as far as the personality, Tim Duncan would be the I would say the comp there. But I wanted to mention something else about Bird too.
Can I say something real fast, because I haven't really had a chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
The and it'll be real fast. With Jokic, I don't think that I wouldn't even equate him to Duncan, because he does that. You see him. He seems like he doesn't. He's famously known for seeming like he doesn't care about basketball. I never thought about Tim Duncan not caring about basketball. I thought that was his entire life whenever I watched him play. Now, was he expressive? Was he aggressive? Like, other people in the media, like with this first question opened up the can of worms. No, but he definitely, like what Robin was saying, is that he had that intimidation factor to him. Like, people didn't want to mess with him. I'm not saying people don't want to mess with Joker, but I think that's only on the defensive end, really. I don't get the impression that people are scared of him playing defense on them. And not to pretend like I know everything about basketball, but he seems like he's primarily very good at help defense. The one-on-one defense, he seems like he's not really that great in. But I want to end two more things with the leadership. I think he is probably, from the outside looking in, he might be the heart of that team. And I think the heart of that team is just relying on this talent. I don't really see a lot of, again, this is the outside looking in, I don't really see that drive like some of these other great teams of the past. The team kind of looks like, whatever, we lost. We're doing good. It's cool. I didn't feel that from Tim Duncan or Larry Bird or Michael Jordan or any of these guys. And AOH was talking about leadership. I agree. You don't have to be the face to be the leader. And I'm gonna bring this guy up again because I haven't talked about him. The Draymond Green, another running. Draymond
if you compliment Draymond Green, I'm hanging up.
He is. I believe he's the leader or the heart, and people have attributed that to the Warriors versus Steph Curry, to what your point was, AOH earlier. And last thing with the Larry Bird, Nikola Jokic, I think for my initial question, are they closer than Michael Jordan and Edwards? I'd say yes, but I still think that they're vastly different. I think they have vastly different mentalities to the game. They play similar in respect to what it looks like from afar. but I still think Bird is better, just from what I think. And but yeah, Hoop God, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Actually, one more thing, because this has been up here for a while. Pierre gave another super chat for $5 to me. He said he had heart problems. I need to find a new doctor. I'm glad you're finding a new doctor, because obviously that's super important. And I hope that they do better for you than what the last one did. But thank you again, sir. So sorry, what were you saying, Hoop God?
No, I was just gonna also state that when I was doing my research on Bird, when he was in high school, he used to play pickup basketball with some of the brothers that worked at a hotel, and it was actually they put that on the Winning Series documentary when he was playing pickup ball. So that's where he got that game of trash talk, just out there playing pickup ball with the guys. And I think like on the surface, I think people were wondering like, hey, how did he learn how to do this? But he's been on record of saying that a lot of times. He's like, yeah, man, I went out there and played ball with those guys and learned, the art of trash talking and getting in my opponent's head and things of that nature, in which we've seen how it played out for him, because like Sports and Fitness Rant said, yeah, he's literally going to tell you, he's going to pump fake, you're not going to jump, then I'm going to give you a step back and I'm going to hit this jumper in your face, and he does it in sequence. It's like, who does that, So yeah, to me, that's another thing that separates Bird, because that's Michael Jordan level, telling you what I'm going to do, and you still can't stop it, Jokic, on the other hand, yeah, we see, a lot of his, I would say, shortcomings, but I'm still saying I think it's unfair, because Bird that's a whole nother level. Can Jokic get there? Possibly, but like Sports and Fitness Rant said, we need to see him battle tested. Like, do this against that stacked Boston Celtics team, right? Maybe we can start having that conversation. But yeah, against the Miami Heat, maybe not so. But I mean, hey, they took down the Lakers, so I can't complain about that. I mean, they've literally dominated them, and they got 2 top 75 players. But yeah, I need to see them go up against a formidable opponent in the East. Then we could probably start really having that conversation and fulfilling it.
I want to ask another question, because a lot of our critics would say that we can't have a show without saying this guy's name. So I'm just going to say it just to appease them. Robin, so they've had people have said that there have been shades of these two players. Do you think that LeBron James is like Magic Johnson? Do you think there's any shades of that?
Hell no.
I mean, listen, see, these are the kinds of things that we were talking about when we talk about the Anthony Edwards to the Michael Jordan comparisons. Ever since LeBron James has been coming into the league as the chosen one, he's had that moniker of being the Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson mixed together, right? That's LeBron James. That's what they wanted you to believe. And then you have LeBron James say things like, oh, I'm not that, I'm my own player, when we all knew that he's chasing Michael Jordan. But when you think about the comparisons to a Magic Johnson, you'll often hear a lot of LeBron James fans say that LeBron James is a greater passer than Magic Johnson. They will literally say these things, or they'll say he's just as good of a passer as Magic Johnson. And in reality, LeBron James is nowhere close to the passer that Magic Johnson is, man. But the one thing that LeBron James is missing, that he still doesn't seem to understand, it don't matter how much money he spends on his body. It don't matter what workouts he does. It doesn't matter how much money he makes. None of these things are going to give him the one thing that he doesn't seem to understand, that guys like Magic Johnson had. And that's that true leadership, man. To true leadership, man. And to be a winner. Magic Johnson was a winner, man, in every sense of the word, man. Everywhere he went, he won. You think about his rookie season, coming in and performing the way that he performed in the NBA Finals. To me, Magic Johnson is a greater player than LeBron James. He had the greater career. To me, when you think about, let's think about the overall game. To me, Magic Johnson did a lot more things at a higher level. People will often talk about LeBron James' athleticism, and they'll say, oh, LeBron James is the greatest all-around player in NBA's history. But we know in reality that's not the case. But when you think about LeBron James' overall game, it's not impressive. If we just think about position by position, Magic Johnson, due to his size, is one of the greater rebounding point guards in the history of the game. Obviously, we know about his playmaking ability. But when we think about playmaking and passing, they might be two different things, but they're similar. To me, Magic Johnson's ability to turn his back to the basket was much greater than LeBron James. And like I said, man, that would go to his playmaking ability, man. Magic Johnson didn't need to dominate the basketball, right? Magic Johnson wasn't just dribbling the air out of the basketball. That's Showtime Lakers. LeBron James out there running the system, making everybody suffer around him. That wasn't Magic Johnson. To me, when I think about Magic Johnson as it relates to making the people around you better, to me, Michael Jordan got the most out of his teammates. To me, that's my thing. In NBA history, I don't think anybody got more out of their teammates than Michael Jordan. But when you think about Magic Johnson, to me, Magic Johnson was probably the easiest player in NBA's history to play with. The way that his play style was, anyone can get out there on the court and run with Magic Johnson and play that style. He's going to get you the ball at the right time, on time, every time. And like I said, man, the true leadership of Magic Johnson, to me, man, LeBron James can't touch those kinds of things, man. And I don't think that their games are similar. And I don't think that LeBron James will ever be that overall player that Magic Johnson ever was.
Absolutely. I'm going to use the bathroom real fast, so if there's a pause. But Hoop God, what do you have to say about all this?
Yeah, so to echo what my man Sports and Fitness Ranch just stated, yeah, the media wants you to believe that because again, the media like to play psychological mind games. And no, I've never got the feeling or the impression that LeBron was anywhere near Magic Johnson's level because again, when you don't actually go back and research this on the surface, you're like, oh well, yeah, it has to be true. No. Can LeBron pass? Yeah, Magic's a great passer. Magic Johnson is arguably the greatest, I would say, offensive player in the game of basketball. I'm not talking about, I'm just saying offense. The way he can set up his teammates, his court vision, interior passing, perimeter passing, transition passing. I mean, he just wipes the floor with LeBron. Again, this man is 6'9". He's pretty much the blueprint of what LeBron James is today. But then we get to the all-around aspect, right? They love to say, oh, well, LeBron James, the greatest all. Well, no, he's not, because we've seen Magic Johnson play all 5 positions. He did it as a rookie, won the Finals MVP for crying out loud. I mean, this whole knock about him not being able to score, no, he could definitely score. What Magic was able to do, what LeBron couldn't do, Magic could adjust his game to do whatever the team needed him to do. I mean, clearly, if Kareem was struggling, he could like overcompensate and start scoring more, which is why Pat Riley came to him in '86 and said, hey, Buck, I need you to take a more prominent role in the offense as far as scoring. What did he do? His point per game went up easily because, again, when you're a great player like that, you can adjust your game to do whatever you need for the team to be successful. Now, when we get into the defensive side, now, yes, LeBron, I would give him the edge on one-on-one defense. I mean, Magic wasn't no slouch. He did not make an all-defensive team, granted, but he has a couple of steals titles. Well, LeBron doesn't have any of those. But then we get to assists per game. Magic's number 1 overall. Playoffs, assists per game. Magic, number 1 overall. In the finals, assists per game. Magic, number 1 overall. But then here it gets real tricky right here. All those triple-doubles that LeBron's had, all those playoff games that LeBron's played in, somehow Magic Johnson still has the most triple-doubles in the playoffs at 30. And he's played significantly less amount of playoff games than LeBron James. I mean, when I saw that stat, it confounded me because I'm like, wait a minute, you're telling me the guy that chases stats still hasn't surpassed Magic, a guy who played to win? I was like, wow. Then they talk about the appearances. Oh, well, he went to 8 straight finals and okay, Magic went to 9 and he won 5, so he won more than he lost. So how are we going to do this? Like, because they love to pick and choose when they want to use something to validate this guy, but when somebody else has done it better, now all of a sudden it's something else. It's like the goalpost always gets moved. So I always ask them, if it's about appearances, well, we got to put Magic in this conversation. He went to 9. That's 1 less than LeBron. Magic did it on 1 team, and he still won more than he lost. But then they'll say, oh, well, he has more Finals MVPs. Okay, cool. Magic doesn't mind his teammates getting the success and winning like that, unlike this other guy who has to get his stats so his teammates can't get the glory, because I don't care what nobody says. Anthony Davis was the Finals MVP of the 2020 bubble. This man was 50, 40, 90. Look, I got to talk to the stat nerds because they love these percentages. Anthony Davis was 57% from the field, 42% from 3, 93% from the free throw line. 50, 40, 90 being the defensive anchor, the best defender, the rim protector, and the most all-around player, the greatest player in that series as far as just what you needed him to do. I think he only averaged maybe 2 or 3 points per game less than LeBron, but I mean, hey, he's expending that energy on the defensive side. So how is he not the Finals MVP? I mean, I don't understand. But again, when you got somebody who has to get his stats, well, he's going to marginalize his teammates, where Magic was the polar opposite. He didn't care about who got the shine, because Magic wanted to win, and you saw that. His teammates loved playing with him. When Magic Johnson had the ball, everybody was on a full court sprint. because they didn't know. They knew if I get open, he's going to throw me the ball. I'm going to score. That's all Magic cared about. And at the end of the day, we've seen what the results were: 9 finals appearances, 5 championships, most triple doubles in the playoffs today in 2024 still, and has the highest assists per game in the entire NBA. Where LeBron James, I think he's 24th. So pass first, it's Magic Johnson. Win first, Magic Johnson. All around, Magic Johnson.
I wanted to add something before I forget, is that I do not understand when people say this. Now, I agree with a certain respect to this, but this is not the whole aspect of defense. When people say that somebody can't play defense, but they have a steals title. So it's like saying somebody can't score, but they have a scoring title, or somebody can't rebound, but they have a rebounding title. Does it mean that Magic Johnson could play great one-on-one defense? Not as much and not as great as other people. I agree with that in many respects. However, that's not the only sort of defense there is. There's off-ball defense. There's help defense. That's just a one categorization of defense at whole. And to say somebody can't play defense, but they have one of the highest steals per game, let alone having a steals title at all, I think you're not looking at the whole aspect of defense. I just wanted to add that before I forgot. AOH, what do you have to say about all this?
And one last thing, I almost forgot. LeBron James, free throw, mediocre. Magic Johnson, great free throw shooter. He has multiple seasons where he shot 90% from the free throw line. Okay, that's all.
AOH, what do you got to say about all this? Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Magic starting with his back to the hoop. And yeah, that's kind of similar to LeBron, except for what happens after that, like the physicality afterward. The rules have changed, and it's not just the hand checking, it's not just the traveling. You go back far enough and you see that what now is a defensive foul used to be an offensive foul. I mean, things have changed so much that we can't really compare the present and the past, even if we wanted to, which is kind of disappointing to me. They accuse us old heads of just wanting to cling to the past. No, I'd like to see today's athletes do amazing things. It's entertaining, but I'd like to see it based on the same criteria, because you don't really know exactly what their skill level is if you have changed the rules to make it easier to play. That's like playing with a little kid and allowing him to travel all the time just to make it a little bit more interesting. You can't provide accommodating rules for people who are supposed to be superior. And whether they're superior or not, you've ruined the argument, because we're not even comparing the same style of play. I didn't even post it yet, but in that series against the Nuggets, they credited LeBron James with an assist where he was at the baseline, didn't bother getting across half court, passed it across half court to D'Lo, who caught it at just beyond half court, dribbled, took his defender, took 3 more dribbles driving to the hoop, and scored. LeBron James is still at the other end of the court. LeBron James got an assist for that. That's not the same game. That's not the same manner of recording assists. And LeBron James, once he starts with his back to the basket, like let's say Magic did, after that is a series of offensive fouls and traveling that doesn't get called anymore. So you can't continue the comparison after the starting point of their backs were turned to the basket, because after that you're looking at a different sport.
Well, I wanted to add something in respect
hold on,
to
Dart. Can I say something real quick, Dart?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to cut you off, man. But I just wanted somebody, these guys in the chat, man. I want to take him to school real quick. My man YT Hoops, man. He said that I'd be cooking, but sometimes I'd be saying crazy things. And to have Magic Johnson above LeBron James is crazy in his opinion. The facts remain that LeBron James is not a top 10 player of all time. He's nowhere close to a top 10 player. He's not worthy to be in the top 10 conversation. That's the first thing you need to understand. But when we talk about Magic Johnson, man, and we're talking about these kind of comparisons, we have to understand that these are all-time great players. No one's saying that LeBron James is garbage and we're tearing him down to these guys are nothingness. A lot of these guys that we're comparing are great players. The thing about Magic Johnson, and we think about LeBron James, Magic Johnson never had a meltdown like LeBron James had in 2011 to that degree when he's on his super team. We think about Magic Johnson, his first NBA Finals. LeBron James gets excused for his failures in the first NBA Finals. Meanwhile, Magic Johnson comes in and steps up for an injured Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. If we think about LeBron James in 2015 alone, he had his Kyrie Irving goes down, Kevin Love goes down. He got a 2-1 lead, and he blows that 2-1 lead because LeBron James himself does not raise his level of play, man. So one of the things that we have to understand is that Magic Johnson has been known, like I said, the leadership, galvanizing the players around him. When we talk about the help that LeBron James has or hasn't had, part of the problem has been LeBron James. Someone said Tragic Johnson in the comments. Once again, what super team that Magic Johnson put together and failed against the 2011 Mavericks? Once again, Magic Johnson's competition, the level of competition that he went against in the NBA Finals, that he came in on top 5 times. There's no way you can put LeBron James above Magic Johnson or in a top 10 conversation because LeBron James has been flopping around all his career, forming super teams, never developing the leadership, never been the kind of player that some of these other guys have been, man. Those are the facts.
With the assist that was mentioned before, and we've talked about this on this channel before too, particularly with Politicus Rex, how you measure getting an assist has changed. What AOH has said, or at least how they award them. Back in the day, you had to receive an assist looking towards the basket and in the half court. You couldn't just do you couldn't just get a rebound and then throw it down the court. You had to be within the half court too. And
really?
You know, per Rex is that the assist it changed over time, let alone a myriad of other things. It stinks that Rex doesn't want to come on anymore. But at the same time, he was a wealth of knowledge of basketball history. But I wanted to add with the Magic Johnson Lebron James thing, and I did a debate on this. I think that Magic Johnson, as the kids say, had a way bigger bag, had is the right word, had a way bigger bag than LeBron James. He was able to post up. He was able to do the sky hook or hook shots in general at a high rate. And later in his career, he was able to do 3-point shots. He was able to do mid-range shots. He was very fast as going downhill, or however you want to say it, going straight towards the basket. He was able to pass, I believe, infinitely better than LeBron James. He was able to rebound pretty much just as well as LeBron James. And he had about half of the usage rate of LeBron James, saying that, which is, being part of a play essentially. So how does he have these equal stats, especially later on in LeBron's career when the pace of play was equal, if you want to use that excuse? How is he able to have these equatable stats, especially, and even with steals and blocks, and then with the eye test, like I just mentioned? He was able to do all of those things. LeBron James does a step back 3 thing, which is a travel, and then he does layups. Otherwise, those are pretty much the 2 ways that he scores nowadays, primarily speaking. Magic Johnson could do infinitely more, let alone back people down. Now, granted, there was the 5-second back down rule now, but and do these hook shots and just had a post game in general. I think it's night and day. I think Magic was, and let alone just the star power of Magic Johnson, I think was greater than LeBron James on top of it all, let alone the game on the court. So yeah, as JJ Redick would say, I would say that is a misnomer.
JJ Rhetoric.
God, he was on this morning and I had to turn it off. I'm so bored. Like he was on with Tim Legler, and I couldn't wait for Tim Legler to talk because he actually starts spitting things out. JJ Redick's just sitting there bathing in his own arrogance, taking forever to say anything at all.
Yeah. So, have any of you heard of anybody else that's had a comparison lately? I can't think of anyone off the top of my head.
So they had Zion touted to be the Charles Barkley prototypical player, just based off, I'm saying, the physical measures, because I know he doesn't have the mental tools yet, but I know that was one. But I don't know. He's just so up and down. I don't know if he's ever gonna come close to that comparison because again, I'm not gonna just anoint somebody. Oh yeah, he's the next Charles Barkley. Like, okay, you may have his physical abilities, but do you have the tools that Barkley brought to the game, the approach, the mentality? So far, I'm not seeing that because he'd rather be over there with the exotic workers, women down there in New Orleans. So I don't know. I got one for y'all. Jason Tatum. He reminds me a lot of Tracy McGrady, not Kobe. What y'all think?
Anyway, what do you think about it?
No, pass. I can't see that. I don't know. That one caught me off guard. I might be wrong, but I haven't really thought about that.
I just, you know how they kept trying to, it's because he went to the Mamba Academy, so, but I'm looking, I'm like, yeah, but he doesn't really remind me of Kobe like the way Kyrie does to a degree. I'm like, he kind of gives me like more of a Tracy McGrady type when I'm seeing, his movements and his mechanics and stuff. That was just one that I just kind of picked up on. Ja reminds me a lot of Russell Westbrook with the athleticism. I know some people said D Rose, which I'm not mad at that neither. I just think he needs to stop playing with the BB guns and focus on basketball. I mean, for crying out loud, dude, you got generational wealth. You want to throw that away to put on this persona that you're a street dude? Like, I don't get it.
And then he does his dance, which is I don't know. I don't get it. What's up?
No, I was gonna say, I think, part of the problem, or like what we're trying to allude to, I think on this channel right now, like, what I'm saying, on this episode, what I'm saying, on this live stream, is how, like I said, everything right now, everyone is being touted as the greatest of, what I'm saying? Everyone's the greatest. So like we were just saying, they're comparing Anthony Edwards to Michael Jordan. They were calling Nikola Jokic the greatest center of all time, the greatest offensive center to ever play the game, the most skilled offensive center. Everyone's the greatest of all time in this era. When we think about a lot of these things, for example, think about the way that they're doing the All-NBA selections right now, the way that they're doing the All-Defensive selections. If you notice on the All-Defensive first team, maybe you didn't notice, there was 3 centers on there. 3 centers on the All-NBA first defensive team. Now, why do I bring that up? Because when we go back into the annals of history and people start talking about guys and their All-Defensive selections, we start talking about the stats, the accolades, things of that nature. What will happen is guys like Patrick Ewing will get lost in the shuffle. And what will they talk about? They'll say like Patrick Ewing never made an all-defensive selection, or he only made a certain amount of all-defensive selections. But the thing about it is, when you think about the time that Patrick Ewing played in, he's going against the David Robinsons, the Hakeem Olajuwons, the Dikembe Mutombos, the Alonzo Mournings, the Mark, the Manute Balls, the Robert Parishes. He's going against some of the greatest centers, some of the greatest defensive centers in the history of the game. So if they were doing all defensive teams back then and having 3 centers on the first team, then maybe Patrick Ewing all of a sudden has 8 or 9, 10 defensive selections. All of a sudden, Patrick Ewing is now viewed differently as it relates to some of the other all-time great players. I saw something the other day as it relates to Luka Doncic, man, and they talked about how many All-NBA first selections Luka Doncic has already achieved in his career. I believe he's All-NBA first team, 5 times already in 6 seasons. He has more All-NBA first selections than some of the greatest players in NBA's history. So when we think about the way that they're doing these All-NBA selections, these All-Defensive selections, the way the stats are being accumulated by these players, everything is stat-driven now. When we think about some of the All-NBA teams, man, someone like a Bill Russell going against Will Chamberlain for consecutive seasons, all of a sudden now these first All-NBA selections starts to get really weird now, man. So for me, the problem right now in the NBA is that these guys are being compared and judged against some of the players from the past. But meanwhile, these guys were battling against each other. Some of the greatest players. Think about the golden era. These guys today, not so much.
Yep, absolutely. I do think that a lot of, especially the media. Now, granted, I understand that they're trying to sell the product that's in front of everyone's face today, but for me, it does get tiring. The latest is the greatest argument. Oh, well, this is the greatest thing we've ever seen in our lives. And then you just have to take a moment to go and look back and realize that that may not be true. But it seems anytime a new guy comes out or anytime anybody does successful, they're the greatest thing that ever was. And it for me, it does get tiring.
Well, can I jump on that?
Absolutely.
I don't remember the conversation when Jordan was coming up of people constantly saying, is he going to be better than so-and-so? Now, maybe I don't remember. But who would that even have been? Like, are they talking about Dr. J because of the flying?
Yeah, it was mostly Dr. J at that time.
But were they saying that very often? I just don't remember it constantly being
I
an issue or
agree.
a concern.
I don't think they were saying it anywhere near to the degree they're saying about Ant-Man. So no, I agree.
We've been taught that it's important to know whether or not you're watching the best. And it didn't used to be. You just used to enjoy watching good basketball.
Yeah.
Right. That's the point right there, Airways. That's what you're saying, man. Like, that's what it's about for me on my channel. I've always told people, man, it's about the effort that the guys gave that I remember watching growing up. These guys gave the effort. What do you hear now a lot? They told these guys, call these guys taxi cab drivers and plumbers. And they'll talk about slow, unathletic white guys, and they'll mention some of these lesser players. But I've always told these people, it was never about the name on the back of the jersey. These guys gave the effort. Michael Jordan knew every single night he was going to have to bring his A game because these guys were going to give the effort. It didn't matter if it was Gerald Wilkins or if it was Dennis Rodman. It didn't matter if it was Joe Dumars or if it was Jeff Hornacek. The name on the back of the jersey was irrelevant because they were true professionals out there. You didn't have to worry about turning the game on when it was Portland Trailblazers versus the Houston Rockets. You knew that Clyde Drexler was going to be there. You knew that Hakeem Olajuwon was going to be there. Whenever the New York Knicks knew that Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls were coming to town, you knew they were going to be there. Scottie Pippen was going to be there. Horace Grant was going to be there. These guys were going to show up. These guys were not going to be load managing. They weren't going to do any of that stuff. They were going to be there every single night, man. That's why those guys earn the respect of the people, man. That's why we're here setting the record straight. We want the guys to play with that love of the game. These guys out here, it seems like most of them are playing for the money and the fame. They want to be internet stars. They want to be reality stars. They don't really want to play with that love of the game. We mentioned Zion Williamson earlier. Zion Williamson, to me, is a disappointment. He's sponsored by the Jordan brand, but yet he's not living up to that Jordan mantra. He's not living that mentality, that lifestyle, when you're supposed to be going out there, giving it your all, pushing through the injuries, pushing through the pain, playing with that love of the game, respecting the fans, respecting the game. These guys don't respect the game no more. They don't respect the fans. This is why if you say something to them, they'll have you ejected from the stands. And they'll take it like, how dare you talk to us like that? How dare you criticize us? That's part of the problem with the NBA right now. These guys acting completely entitled and don't play with that same love, the same effort that we watched.
Look how much popularity your Knicks gained. I think largely just because people were inspired by, man, these guys are playing all these minutes and they're still fighting, they're still trying, which was great. I think it caused a lot of people to look at some players that they didn't know existed before. But my flip side to that is look how quickly the announcers and analysts tried to say, oh, they're hurt because they didn't load manage. What I didn't hear them talk about is how many dudes that did load manage are also out across the entire league. You gotta include the other side of the stats before you condemn playing hard minutes and not load managing.
That's right. If you don't use it, you lose it. That's the problem with these fools right now. Everybody wants to talk about bigger, stronger, faster. But like you just mentioned, think about all the great players, not the average or the bench warmers, the role players. We're talking about the star players of teams that missed entire postseason games. We're talking about Jimmy Butler, Giannis Antetokounmpo. We're talking about all these guys missing entire postseason. Kawhi Leonard, Zion Williamson. None of these guys were there in the postseason, man. So once again, the load managing, all this does is exposing these NBA players as being much more frail, soft. It's mental with these guys. They're not injured. They're just hurt, and there's a difference.
I got a question for you, Robin, because I've heard this rumor. What if LeBron James goes to the New York Knicks? How would you feel about the Knicks?
Yeah, no, we've talked about this on my channel, man. See, LeBron James had his chance to go to the New York Knicks back in the 2011 free agency when he made the decision. He could have went to New York Knicks. He could have blazed a whole path for himself in New York. He could have earned that respect that he's looking for right now. He would have had it, but he was scared and he ran to Miami with Dwayne Wade. He should have formed his own path, man, but he didn't do that, man. So no one wants LeBron James now in New York because once again, LeBron James doesn't really mesh with the New York mentality, man. We don't want his flopping ass out here, man. Get out of here.
Yeah, he damaged goods at this point. And I wanted to follow up on what AOH stated. Not only is the load management a pretty much dumpster fire, but are there any super teams left in the playoffs? Because what I see is the organically built teams that are in the playoffs now.
Yep.
Yeah, right. All the riffraff is gone.
Yeah, although all those extremely belligerent super teams, yeah. Then it, especially
No
with
Clippers,
the Suns,
no Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't make far. Obviously, they're you can argue that maybe some of these other teams are the Wolves made trades for Gobert, whatever. Dallas got Kyrie. So, I mean, maybe you could argue that stuff, but those teams are not nearly as belligerent as the Clippers and the Suns. And I think that's to your point, what you're trying to make, of just that collaboration and conspiracy to have all these top heavy teams. Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, you guys good to take some calls, or you have anything else you want to talk about, or?
Yeah, I'm good.
No, let's do it.
All right. For the people that don't know, it's the easiest to go and call in from coming onto my channel. And just to remind people, if you like what you have to see here, please like and subscribe to our channels at Sports and Fitness Rants, at Michael Jordan Fans Are the Best, and at DeJuan Sanders. But the easiest way, to call into the show is to do it from my channel. I'm dropping the link right now. And if you like what I have to say, I appreciate you subscribing to my channel as well. But yeah, it's I'm gonna use the bathroom real fast, but just give me a second.
Yo, my man Zen Master, he said that Boston's a super team, man. And and I hear where he's coming from, but I feel like with Boston and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they've been together for a minute. So I feel like the way that they came together, being there organically, and yes, they added Drew Holiday in this offseason, but they've had like Al Horford there for a while. So for me, their team has been together, and they weren't really like the way that we would think of like a super team, like the way like I feel like Kevin Durant brought together him and Devin Booker, and then the Bradley Beal scenario, or even the way that the Clippers did it with James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook. You know what I'm saying? So to me, I think they're a little bit different. I think they're a really good team, but I don't think they're a super team in the way that we think about it.
Yeah, I agree. When I say a super team, I'm looking at 3 number one option guys coming together, whether it be through them colluding or whatever, like however the case may be. And I mean, hey, granted, even if a GM puts them together, because I think a lot of people will talk about that Boston with KG, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce, which you can make that case, but the only reason why I don't necessarily consider them a super team is because they were already well over 30. You come together like this in your 20s, in the prime of your career, and all of you guys can create your own offense, multiple All-NBAs, like that's a super team. No, to me, Boston, they kind of remind me of the Spurs to a degree. You got your three marquee players, and then you surround them with great role players, much like Golden State. They drafted Steph, Clay, Draymond, and then they got nice role players. So I don't necessarily consider this Boston squad a super team because I've never looked at Porzingis as a superstar player on a team. Drew Holiday, he's a great role player. I don't see him as a superstar player. So no, I don't consider them that.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm sorry, go ahead, Dart.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't call the Celtics a super team either. Picking up Kristaps and Drew is Tatum and Brown are most people would agree leagues above those two. Yeah. Kristaps has been injury prone, and again, not to say that neither of them neither of them are bad players. I just would not say that they are superstars, and I think that's what you would classify a super team as with superstars. I think that's kind of the whole point with it. We got Pierre calling in, and I can't wait till I get my computer back because this thing is killing me. The camera doesn't work anymore. That's why I'm not on camera.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's just falling apart. But Pierre,
hey guys,
welcome,
how you
sir.
doing?
All right. What up?
Robin, did you get my message?
Well, you sent me a message when today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably didn't see it. Yeah, I didn't know.
Oh, okay. I just sent it, to one of your short videos. That's all.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Anyway, I need to ask all three of you guys a question. Okay.
All right.
How do you feel, okay, Dart, about these idiots? I call them idiots just like Robin does. Stephen A., right? Blind wind blow hard, right? All these pundits, idiots, putting LeBron at number 2. Like they have him number 2. They keep saying it on air all time. And I'm just sick of it. It makes me sick to my stomach. So I want to know what you guys' opinion of them doing it all the time. You know what I mean? And I mean, it's not even justified. I mean, I got LeBron, like I told you, Dart, is number 6, but he's between 6 and 10 all time. You know what I mean? For me. But there's no way in hell is he top 5, and no way in hell is he number 2. So I just wanted to get that question out first.
Hoop God, you look like you're chomping at the bits. You want to go first?
The narrative is imperative. I'm gonna say that again. The narrative is imperative.
The narrative is imperative. I love it.
Why do they keep psychologically trying to program not us, but the sheeple to believe he's number 2? Why? Because now it's like this. Okay, well, if LeBron is not number 1, he has to be number 2. According to who? He shows me no qualities of being compared second to Michael Jordan, whether you want to say winning. Hell no. So what are we using the stats? We got to talk about Wilt Chamberlain. Are we talking about style of play and the mentality? Well, that's Kobe Bryant. No matter what metric they use, there's 2 or 3 other players who are levels above him. But they know they can't say that. Why? Because it's not going to garner those ratings. It's not going to garner the clicks. It's not going to garner the revenue. So they have to put him up there to do what? Spark the conversation. Make people believe that it's true. But then you also have a certain sector of people who knows that's a bunch of hogwash and boulder dash, right? But they can't say that on TV because it doesn't fall in line with the narrative. And this is what makes it even more, I would say, disgusting when we actually can break this down. You now have, and let me credit the guy, Rick Bucher, he got an email from Clutch Sports saying, hey, we'll give you a certain amount of compensation if you can, give LeBron an MVP. Why do you need to buy votes? I get it. Politicians do that. This isn't politics. This is the sports. This is NBA. This is basketball. Why do you need to go over here and bribe people? When you have to resort to that, get away from number 2. You're not even top 10 worthy because now you have to go out and try to sell yourself to people. Much like some particular females have to sell themselves, to a suitor who wants to, like, what? What are we doing? Like, no. But no, what they want to do, they want to say it so much that it's going to program you to believe it. And I see it because I can be talking to other people and well, LeBron James is he's a consensus number 2. Based off of what? How can you be the consensus number 2 when all of your competition beat you easily? Tim Duncan beat you multiple times. Steph Curry. You can't even beat Nikola Jokic in a regular NBA playoff format. You couldn't beat Dwight Howard. You couldn't beat the Phoenix Suns when Chris Paul got injured. Number 2. No. That's all.
Hey, Dart, I just want to add one thing.
Yeah, the old man belly laugh. No.
Dart, I just want to add one thing to what Who God said. It's like
What's
a
up?
brainwashing.
Mhm.
It's like they think they can brainwash us, Robin.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Word.
saying? You know what I mean, Dart? It's like they keep saying it, so they think, oh yeah, I'm going to convince everybody. It's the mentality.
Hey, perfect. Yes, Michael Jordan couldn't beat Larry Bird. You're correct. That's why Larry Bird's the greatest center of all time. Thank you for confirming that, sir. Hey, my bad, Pierre.
But yeah, for your question, why did they do it, Pierre? Is I think that they're just trying to sell right now. I don't think a lot of them actually believe it, honestly, because some of the times they just contradict themselves. Because you go and they'll talk about Michael Jordan, and then they'll talk about the dominance, and then I feel like they contradict themselves about LeBron James, where they're like, okay, well, he had all these appearances, but then they say, well, Michael Jordan was 6-0, just for the most proliferated takes. And then they talk about the scoring titles, but LeBron has none, let alone statistical titles at large.
Oh, he got one.
So,
No, he got one, Dart. Yeah, it took
oh,
him
he
20
does.
years
He's
to
got
get
yeah,
one scoring title. Yeah, he got one. I'll give him that.
yeah. He's got one scoring title, one assist title. But I'm saying in respect to he doesn't have 13
Oh,
statistical
yeah.
titles.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how they equivocate that. And even with his media presence, I I think it may be a little bit more proliferated going across all these countries, but I don't just versus players that have passed outside of Michael Jordan. It doesn't seem like he's had the cultural impact such as guys like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson or Dr. J or Jerry West or Wilt Chamberlain or George Mikan or Bob Cousy. Had to say George Mikan. I got to say it once a show. But yeah, no, I think they just try to sell it as the latest and the greatest period. I don't think they really. I can't believe that most of these guys actually believe it, especially the older guys. Maybe some of the younger guys, but I don't believe the older guys believe it. What do you think, Robin?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are around the money. I mean, listen, when we talk about, LeBron James being, right behind Michael Jordan, like, I don't think really a lot of people really get it. That's part of the reason why a lot of us started making our channels and started to come out. And like I said, set the record straight, because the facts don't point to any of that. There's nothing that points to LeBron James being the number 2 greatest basketball player of all time. There's nothing that you can point to his resume. LeBron James' resume is all paper. He's a paper champion, man. Everything is on paper. When you watch the video footage, what do you see? You see LeBron James playing on stacked super teams with all the odds in his favor, going against nobody. That's what you see on the video footage. You see LeBron James forcing his teammates to fit into his system, which, like we've all said, makes his teammates lesser versions of themselves, which makes them more inconsistent, which makes them take all the blame. LeBron James, in his 21st season, he just finished his 21st season, and LeBron James was still making excuses after they lost to the Denver Nuggets. Still making excuses. So when you think about him being ranked in the all-time history, how can you put him up there with the other all-time greats? The guys who were taking the blame. Jerry West wasn't blaming Gail Goodrich because they couldn't beat the Boston Celtics every year. They weren't pointing the finger at each other, him and Elgin Baylor. They just kept coming back, man. LeBron James has never taken the ownership for anyone to believe that he's a top 10 all-time player. You're not holding yourself to a standard, and you're not holding LeBron James to any standard. You're not holding him accountable for the super teams. You're not holding him accountable for the flopping. You're not holding him accountable for walking off the court early, for load managing, for always blaming his teammates and never taking responsibility, for always looking for an excuse by wearing soft casts and all kinds of nonsense, man. You're not holding the standard.
At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Oh, that is so funny. So right.
Do you have another question, Pierre? Nobody else is calling in, so.
No. I had to get that one out of my head. I had to get that one. I'm just glad to be able to talk to you guys.
Just imagine Larry Bird or Magic Johnson or Tim Duncan or Bill Russell, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant after a loss. In the day, it's just basketball. That's disrespectful to those guys, man. And Hakeem, don't let me forget about him. And Kareem. All those guys in my top 10. At the end of the day, it's just basketball. They can't be in my top 10. I'm sorry. I
Hey,
need
Dart, I have a question for you though. When Who God finishes,
What's up?
Dart, do you think? Now, be honest. Now, do you think that Hakeem Olajuwon, right, is better than Jokic?
Oh, better?
Yeah,
Yes,
overall.
yes.
Okay,
Overall, I
okay.
do.
Because I had
I
idiots argue with me to, different because, Jokic is what's up now because he's new.
no. I think Jokic is probably a better um, ball handler and distributor, and it's not. But I think in total, if you look at the whole package, just on the basketball court, I would say it's Hakeem by a significant margin, especially on the defensive end of things. Um, the greater aspect of it is a different story because he's been awarded all of these MVPs. He's getting all this media attention. Um, but better, no, I would say it's Hakeem personally. But
Hey Pierre, I would say this.
Uh-huh.
Till we see Nikola Jokic destroy another center, I'm talking about his counterpart, the way Hakeem did David Robinson.
Right.
Conversation just yet.
Look how he went against Jack. Right,
My
Robin? Look how he
That's
went
right.
against Jack.
My point.
That's
He
right.
swept back. I ain't even mentioned that. The reason I chose David Robinson is because he won the MVP, in which in that era, those guys were like, if somebody won an award that they felt like they should have gotten, they went out and showed you I'm the better man. Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, 93 finals. Cool. Y'all give Barkley MVP? Fine. I'm gonna go 41 points per game, and I'm gonna give you shoot over 51% from the field. He should have been MVP, So that's another thing about the '90s, that when they felt like they got snubbed, well, they just went out and destroyed whoever was the recipient of that award. Nowadays, you get a guy to whining and pounding. Oh, I should have been a defense. No, you shouldn't. You did not have the same defensive impact as Marc Gasol. Stop crying. Like the Miami Heat, they were literally fifth in defense before this guy got there. They only went up by 1%. The Memphis Grizzlies, they were like in the 20s. Marc Gasol catapulted them up to the no, I take that back. They weren't top 10. They were like 11th or 12th. Gasol catapulted them up to number 2. Like, what? Stop this nonsense. And then if you want to prove that you're the defensive player of the year, lock down somebody. Who did he lock down in the playoffs? I can't recall anybody. I mean, he was the freeway. He was open like the freeway at 4:00 in the morning. Hey, yeah. Let me get LeBron one-on-one. Like, what? You're being hunted out on defense, and you're crying about a defensive player of the year.
all right, Pierre, we got Mike Lowry in the back, but thank you for calling in.
Yeah,
And
let him on.
Thank you for the super chats earlier. I
No
want to address
problem.
Zen before I
You
let
guys
Mike
are the
on.
best. Respect.
Absolutely,
Thank
Pierre.
you, man.
Yep, you're welcome.
And then Zen Master Sports and Shorts at super chatted me $5. He says LeBron James is 18 for 31 against the Western Conference in his career. Michael Jordan was 24 for 11. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, Zen Master. Yeah, man. Thanks for adding fuel to the fire. But I appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much, sir. We've got Mike Lowry here. How are you today, sir?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How you doing? Thanks for having me again.
All right. What up?
What's going on? I just got a question, man. After we were just going through, the last couple topics, I was just thinking about other sports, other sports leagues like soccer, not baseball, but soccer, football, hockey, and some of the other sports leagues around the world. What if they had a rookie, right, that came into their league, and their league kind of changed the rules, kind of, fudge things around to promote this rookie over the greats? How would they react in other countries? I feel like basketball is so soft now that people kind of accept it. It's like a lot of people were born after LeBron was drafted, so that's kind of all they know, all they see, and so it's kind of being fudged up. But us, we know. I hoop. I still hoop. I'm 41. I still hoop. I try to stay in shape, and that's a lot of that is because of Michael Jordan in that era. Not just Michael Jordan, but the whole era, because all those dudes were in shape. All those dudes were hooping. So it's like, what are your excuse, right? If all these guys can hoop, even the last guy on the bench back then, right? So it's like, how would it be? I just want to, your guys' opinion. How would it be if other sports leagues like soccer, for example, these people take that shit. I mean, sorry, excuse my language. They take it really seriously. Y'all know they take soccer seriously in other countries, man. It's for real. So how would y'all think if the other leagues, kind of swayed things for a rookie coming in to pass a Messi or Ronaldo or one of those greats?
Do you want to start, Robin?
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, yo, much respect you for coming on, man. Thanks for calling in and stuff, man, for real, man. And thank you for all your support, for real, man. But yeah, no doubt. Yo, it's funny you bring up soccer. When I think about soccer, and I've talked about this in a past video on my channel before. When I was growing up, we're the same age. I'm 43 years old, man. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, man. And when I was growing up, I played football, basketball, and baseball. Those were the three sports that American children, boys, those are the sports that we played. Soccer was known as a European sport. It was never an American sport back in the 80s, man. You know what I'm saying? I grew up watching guys like Darryl Strawberry and Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, you know what I'm saying? Watching the Michael Jordans, watching some of these guys like Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, the Lawrence Taylors, these guys playing football, man. So when we think about the European players now that are in the league, what do you hear them say now about the NBA? Like you were saying, they're saying the NBA is real soft now. The NBA is not what it used to be. It's not as hard as the Euro League. But when we grew up watching the NBA, the 80s, especially the 90s, when the Dream Team came around, what did we always know? That the basketball NBA was the standard all across the globe, man. That real men played in the NBA. Grown men, professionals, guys that showed up, gave that effort, played with heart, played with true grit. Guys who played through pain, played through personal problems, man. You know what I'm saying? They showed up to work, man. So when we think about the Europeans of other countries and, these how the NBA's play now, it's being a lot softer. You said they're bending the rules and all these things. This is why a lot of people are coming out now. We're starting to stand up and trying to put the reality out there and set the record straight on this stuff, man, because these guys are not comparable to a lot of the guys that we grew up watching, man, because like you said, the game ain't the same, man. It's a lot softer, and these guys don't give the same effort.
So mine's going to be real fast. I just don't think the NBA really honors its history as much as other sports. I think that they really, really try to make the latest as the greatest. And the only thing they really have standing is the Michael Jordan, but they use, I believe, Michael Jordan as a prop because he is so far above everything, or generally speaking, most people agree with that. I think they just use him as a prop to sell the newest thing, and they just are able. They just do not care about how disrespectful they sound about just jumping over everyone else. Hoopga, what do you got to say?
Wait. Okay, I thought my mic was muted. No, that whole latest, greatest. Yeah, they have to say, they have to stay on code. Okay, it's to go along to get along mentality, because they want you to promote this era. But again, what they're telling us, the results are completely opposite. And when we point that out, well, we had to get those, what I call these liberal terms and labels called hater and all this. Like, no, it's just a truth teller. And you hate the truth because we see what you're telling us is not factual. The whole, player empowerment, we should be able to control our destiny. Okay, cool. How's that worked out?
That's a narrative. Yeah, we know that's a narrative.
Right. We don't even see any of those teams in the playoffs right now. Like the whole old man thing. I mean, I was ripping for Kawhi because of his whole ordeal with San Antonio, but ultimately it's like, bro, if you don't play, you're not gonna build up and bulletproof the body. Like that's how you prevent injuries, through intense practicing. Why? It's muscle memory. I mean, it's simple, like it's biology. With you playing and getting those repetitions, it builds up the muscle memory. So now your body can withstand some of those, turns and jumps and cuts and all that nature. But if you're going out here playing 1,000% and then you don't play the next 2 games, well, now you're confusing your own body. So yeah, you're going to keep having these nagging injuries when you're not out there. The great Herm Edwards said this: what's your best ability? Availability. And if you're picking and choosing games to play, well, now it's like you're doing not only yourself a disservice, what you're doing to fans because you got these kids who their parents go buy these games, these marquee games, and see a Kobe Bryant, a Michael Jordan, or Dwayne Wade, or Stephen Curry, and Giannis, and all these guys, and LeBron, and Giannis. Oh, I'm not going to play. Well, now you're not even considering the fact that this parent went and bought these tickets because they want something. Lakers and Bucks. Either one of y'all are playing. I mean, come on, man. Where's the integrity? Like, nah. So this there, no, it's not the greatest. It's a talking point that can be easily refuted. But when you do refute it, they can't attack your message. So what's the next resort? They have to attack you. And see, when they start attacking you, you kind of know they're buying now. It's like, not talking about me. We're talking about the topic, So no, that this whole latest greatest. They have a few good players that I do like to watch, like Ant-Man and Jokic.
There's some background noise. I don't know if it's okay. It's gone now. Okay,
but yeah, there's a few players that I thoroughly enjoy watching because they have, I would say, a little bit of the old school, mentality. Like prime example, Jamal Murray, who had a calf injury, still went out there and played. He could have been like, "Nah, I'm gonna just wait till I feel better." Nah, he toughened it up. He licked his own. He went out there and he played. That's what I appreciate. Guys who just go out there. Everybody's hurting, okay? Everybody. Now, when you're injured, you can't play. But if you're hurt, you can still go out there and play. And then that's ultimately, to me, is what separates those guys from the 80s and the 90s and in the 2000s as well. I mean, look at Isaiah Thomas. This man had a whole sprained ankle. You think anybody playing today with a sprained ankle? This man went out there and gave Michael Cooper, one of the greatest defenders of all time, 25 points in a quarter, It's a whole mindset, No, those guys from back then, they were just cut from a whole different cloth. They were men, they had and they went out there to play for the game. Everything else, they earned.
Well, I mean, back to kind of to the point, I feel like in this country, we've kind of accepted, I wouldn't say mediocrity, but just,
No, you're right. You're right. It's mediocrity.
Yeah, it's pretty much accepted mediocrity. Other countries, I don't think they go for it.
No.
I honestly believe that they would be louder with the kind of like how we were with baseball when we found out that Barry Bonds was juicing. We pretty much tore that man apart. Yep. And a lot of those guys, Lance Armstrong, we found out, he was cheating the sport, tore him apart. So. And I'm not saying that LeBron is on that level because, well, maybe he is. We don't know yet. In the future we might find out. But to me, a lot of times we blame Adam Silver for a lot of what's been implemented in basketball. And I feel like, me personally, I've been back and forth with my friends about this. I blame David Stern. Rest in peace, David Stern. He was a great man. As far as he ran a great company, but
yeah.
David Stern implemented a lot of these, I'd say, LeBron rules that we see today. David Stern, Adam Silver just kind of continued what David Stern started. David Stern took away the handshake rule right before LeBron got drafted. We all knew LeBron was getting drafted number 1 2 years before he got drafted.
Yeah.
So did he. He took away the handshake rule. And then LeBron gets drafted. And then here you go. LeBron can charge. He can do all this other stuff. And David Stern was the guy. He was the guy that was in charge during that time. And Adam Silver came in and he pretty much kept the same script, so his job was easy, so I feel like this has been implemented a long time ago, a lot longer than a lot of these fans were even born. And these rules were implemented then. That's why they're talking about taking away the handshake rule now, because LeBron's about to retire. Of course you want to take it away because you're losing fans. And it makes sense. Take away the handshake rule, you're going to bring excitement back to the sport. Hey, somebody's thinking with their brain finally.
Yep.
That's a great point. Mike, I want to thank you for calling in. We got Jim backstage. We're going to let him on and ask a question, but thanks for the great question input. I think it was value added to the show. And I hope you have a great day and Memorial Day.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Indeed.
No much respect.
Jim, welcome from Self-Research NBA Facts. How are you today?
I'm good. How you guys doing? How you doing, Rob? How you doing, Hoop God? Dart, you guys all right?
Great. Hey, that was a phenomenal, I would say, ethering that you put on yesterday, man. Salute to you. fact, let me
Yo,
turn
for real, Jim. What's up, man?
Hey,
I
salute
wasn't even I wasn't even really prepared for it either, you know.
You can't be
Look, some
prepared for
guy.
that nonsense.
So I know the one guy who called in said that, oh, you didn't go through Mike's resume. It's like, well, how many times do you got to say, you know, oh, you're 6-0 in the finals and, you know, 6 finals MVPs. Everybody knows all this already.
yeah.
Trying
Yeah.
to trying, you know,
Another
trying to
point.
mention
Another
trying to
point.
mention stuff that people, you know, maybe haven't heard before or haven't heard in a long time or something. You know, that's just the
Right.
same tired talking points that I think is part of the reason why people just kind of don't think it's a big deal like they do with Bill Russell. It happened so long ago. It wasn't that many teams. They normalize it like it's just no big deal. You know what I mean? So I try not to bring
Yep.
it up because it is a big deal.
Hey, Jim, I like that point you made when he tried to say, "Oh, it was scripted and this, that, and the fourth." But it's like, okay, but you have to make the shot. Was that scripted too? Like he had no.
Right. Exactly. That double clutch over Elo. I highly doubt they were working on that before the game. You know what I mean? But yeah, anyway, on this specific topic, I mean, I've done a few videos on this recently. And my thing is how they officiate the game now is so different. You really can't compare to previous eras because the way that they're allowed to do whatever you want to call it, a gather step, a Euro step, whatever, a step back three was never allowed in the 80s, 90s, even the 2000s. You get called for traveling so fast. You're considered leaving your feet when you do that. That's how they would have called it. And people, like last night, I was watching the last minute of the Boston Pacers game. And I guess that's all I needed to see. But Drew Holiday drives in, just shoves the guy out of the way with his elbow, gets an and one, and then he does this flex thing. So I guess it's just understood that there are no offensive fouls. So you can just push anybody out of the way. I don't know why people don't just do it every time. Just drive right in and just, you know, like LeBron does. And the way he hooks people, leads with his elbow. I mean, they just allow anything. Switching your pivot feet. The game is just not called the same. So I don't know how you can.
Oh no, he's having technical difficulties again.
But yeah, we get the gist of what he was saying, man. And yeah, much respect to my man Jim calling in. And I'll just speak real briefly on what he was saying because I agree with what he's saying. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
No, you're good. Somehow my connection went out again. I don't know how. I'm on Wi-Fi this time, but no, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
No, I was just gonna say, man, because you're around the money with this stuff because of the way the game is being called right now. I think a lot of times, man, and I hate to go back to my man Bob Cousy, man, but every time you hear Bob Cousy's name brought up by a lot of the new age fans, it's in a condescending manner to tear him down, to say that he could not dribble the basketball. They'll say a lot of times these guys had no left hand. We all heard what they were trying to do with Michael Jordan recently. These guys had no left hands. They couldn't cross over the ball. What that goes back to is what my man Jim is saying. These guys were officiated to the letter of the law, the way the game was intended. They couldn't do all these fancy crossovers and behind the backs and do these weird moves. They couldn't take gather steps and Euro steps. They couldn't do any of those things. So they had to be precise with their ball handling ability, man. These guys had to be on the money. So when they knock a Bob Cousy, think about what he was doing being under those officiating rules. Someone like a Pistol Pete Mavericks. This guy was a magician with the basketball, man. These guys were legit ball handlers. They had skills, man. These guys were not garbage. So when we think about the way the game is called, man, you're absolutely right, man. They're allowed to get away with way too many carries, too many travels, too many offensive fouls. You know, I was watching a video on the Will Chamberlain archive doing some research on Elgin Baylor. And what I noticed was that what he's talking about, the way the game was officiated as far as it goes with the offensive fouls. I saw a play when Bill Russell drove down the court for a layup, and the defensive player cut his legs out from underneath Bill Russell, turned his back to Bill Russell, and they called an offensive foul against Bill Russell on that play. These are a lot of the things that people are alluding to when they talk about Will Chamberlain, and people will knock Will Chamberlain for his lack of success, things of that nature. But if Will Chamberlain was allowed to play the game of basketball, even if he was allowed to play the way that Shaquille O'Neal was allowed to play in early 2000s, Will Chamberlain would have had way more points, way more rebounds. Who knows if he would have won any more championships? He would have been able to use his physicality to his advantage. He wasn't allowed to do those things in that era, man. So, Jim, man, once again, you're around the money.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You hit my point with exactly what I was going to say. Whenever some player comes along, which they deem as like an exciting play, and it kind of bends the rules, it's now the norm. It was like Allen Iverson doing that crossover. Then it was James Harden with his step back three. It was Shaq with just being able to, knock into people until he was under the rim and dunk on them. The rule is if you move a guy 1 inch, then it's an offensive foul. That's the way it's supposed to be officiated. They abandoned that a long time ago because it wouldn't be exciting because Shaq would be fouled out in the first quarter of every game. So they just were never going to do it that way. They keep bending the rules until this is the product they have today where there's almost no rules. They don't call traveling. They don't call offensive fouls. It's just a joke of a product. And that's fine. If people like it, whatever. But don't compare it to the previous.
This is playback of the Hakeem Olajuwon debate.
Yep.
Jerry West debate. Hold on.
It keeps messing up today. It was
Jim,
real windy out of bad storm.
Hold on.
Okay.
It's not going. You should be able to come back in. Hoopga, what do you okay, Jim, were you gonna finish it or?
No, all I was saying is, whenever a player comes along and bends the rules, they make that the norm. Shaq got away with so much, and that's why I don't consider Shaq as great as a lot of people, just because he got away with so much that, other players in the past just weren't able to get away with. He was able to use his size and his strength, like James Harden with that step back three. That was never anybody could do that. You had to continue your dribble if you were going to go back to a three-pointer, and they just let him do it. So anyway, let me know your guys' thoughts on that.
I know you said you got to get going. You want to give your take, and then if you got to go, just get out after that, or
yeah. I'll be swift. No, everything Jim's saying is spot on. I mean, to me, that's the difference between a casual viewer versus somebody who actually takes the time to go figure out, okay, how was the game being officiated in the 60s versus how's it being officiated in the 90s and the 2000s? And he's absolutely correct, because I'm of the mindset, stop the moving screens, stop the traveling, stop the flopping, and all that gather step. Those players are going to adjust, okay? It's just point blank, period. If you want to be successful in this game, you're going to adjust to whatever the rules are. But if you just allow these guys to do whatever, then they're gonna take advantage of it. They're gonna be opportunists. But no, I think they need to clean all that nonsense up, and you ultimately will have a better product. The reason why, look what happens every time they go overseas and play. The international game, it's a smaller size court, so you have to depend on your skill set, and then they play the game the right way with the fundamentals, which is what's lacking in our basketball over here in the United States. Overseas, practice, one game. Over here, game, one practice. I mean, so it's not a coincidence that when we go overseas, they're thoroughly kicking the USA's ASS, to a degree. So no, I agree with Jim, spot on.
Yep, and I guess Jim's just given up on on calling in. But yeah, no, I agree. I agree in a nutshell. I don't want to go and just to reiterate what everyone said, but I think they let these rules slide just for entertainment purposes. I was watching a game with Rex a while back. It was the 1980, I think, Game 4 NBA Finals, and they were calling I think they called 3 traveling calls on Kareem in the first 2 quarters for him just doing a drop step without dribbling and turnover. So
Yep.
I agree. I think they just do it for entertainment purposes. But Hoop God, thank you for coming, and I hope you have a great Memorial Day.
Hey man, same to you guys, man. Enjoy y'all weekend.
Yo, be good, man. Be safe out there, man.
Indeed. Peace.
Absolutely. We got T Ray here. We'll take T Ray and T Perfect, and then we'll end the show after that. How are you, T Ray?
I'm all right, fellas, man. How y'all doing?
Good.
Great.
All right. Yeah, I just want to touch on the fact that the fact that the game transitioned from the 2-point era to the 3-point era is really underrated, and how, you know, we look at these guys today as transcendent scorers when they don't have to put in the work to score. They can just line up and shoot threes and run off screens, shoot threes. You know, the creativity is not there. You know, the only creativity that's there is due to rule changes, which allows them to, you know, step back three, shuffle sideways, and whatnot. So the actual game itself is suffering because of that. You know, when Jordan was getting his points, I think in 87 when he averaged 37.1, he only made 12 threes. You know what I mean? Kareem, all-time leading scorer, he made 1 3 his whole career. So to me, that's the all-time leading scorer. You know, what the game was made on, the premise what the game is about is, you know, going inside, getting the bucket, or getting the 3-point play the old-fashioned way. So I look at today, you know, overall, just, you know, everything's a cop-out and everything's a gimmick. So that's just where I'm at with that, you know.
Yeah, to your point, I definitely understand what you're saying about the creativity. I won't say as far as that there's no creativity, but bending the rules to allow for isolation plays to be more effective. You know, the step back three, the 4 or 5 steps practically, because you can gather the ball and all this other stuff. Yeah, I think it takes a lot of the team creativity out of it, and the individual creativity of post play. I am biased towards post play because I am
exactly
a larger person, and that's how I played. So I appreciate how hard it is, or how easy it is, or how great it feels when you're able to beat somebody in a post move. I think that the ISO aspect of post play is more impressive than taking 5 steps because they let you do it. But I would say that there still is team creativity with passing, and then, you know, if you want to say,
yeah, you do have a Denver Nuggets who they move the ball, everybody touches the ball, and people they don't stand still watching, you know, ball watching. You had that, and then you had the Spurs before them. You had Sacramento and whatnot. But overall, you know, it's a copycat league to where everybody saw the success that Golden State had, and eventually everybody went that route. Them in Houston, the Houston Rockets, where they just analytics this and that, and we're gonna shoot threes, and it just brought down the overall product of the game that we see.
You know? Absolutely, Robin. Do you want to comment on what T-Ray was saying?
Yeah, I just you know, real quickly, I'll just say, you know, to what you guys are talking about, the 3-point line and the overall, you know, aesthetics of the game right now. I think it goes back to the balance. That's why that time period from the 80s into the 90s is the golden era. That's when they introduced the 3-point line, but they didn't abuse the 3-point line. So you had that balance. You had specialists, guys who were known as being 3-point snipers, 3-point specialists. You had the Reggie Millers out there, the guys who utilized the 3-point line more than others. But you also had the post-up guys, the high flyers, the coaches that ran full court presses, half court traps. You had all kinds of things going on in the NBA, man. The game was balanced. So what did you have? You had some teams that were known for being high-scoring teams. You had the teams that scored 110 points, maybe 115 points, but you also had the teams that would hold you to 85, 90, 95 points. They were known as the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, 2 different play styles when I was growing up. The Eastern Conference was known for being more of a defensive-minded conference. The Western Conference was known for being more of an up-and-down conference, or more of a run-and-gun type of conference. So you had all kinds of different teams, different kinds of systems, man. So when you talk about the way the game is played now, all we have to do is look at the All-Star game. Look at the NBA All-Star game. They shot over 163 pointers in the All-Star game. That's not an All-Star game. That's a 3-point contest. And why is that? Because like you said, that's the way the game is now. Everyone's chucking up threes. No one wants to play and bring back the beauty of the game. Back in the 90s, man, the All-Star game was beautiful. It was a show for the people, man. Now it's a laughingstock.
Well, to make one more point, what you said with that is tragic, man, because once you open that up, then everybody coming in behind them is the same way. Like, we're getting away from the core ethics of what the game is, you know. So we don't have the rebounders. People don't fight for rebounds no more. You had like a Michael Cage or somebody like that. They couldn't play today because they don't have a place in the game for them. Everybody getting these long rebounds, and then it's leading to 3-pointers on the other end. Then also too, teams aren't. That's why you see so many comebacks. Like these teams that get up 20 and they still shooting threes. Go inside, go in the post, run the clock, run your offense. You know what I mean? Go draw fouls. They don't do.
Yo, he's right about that though, man. That was a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's it kills me, and I forget where it was on. I think it was on TV. I think it was Rick Carlisle or something. It was some head coach, and they've just bought into the whole analytics thing, and it kills me when I talk to people about it, and they just don't recognize that there's more to the game than just on a piece of paper. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like to me, it's just foolish because there's
Bro,
what's up?
I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's in all sports. It's not just basketball now. Like they've allowed nerds that never played the game to come in and say this is how the game should be played, and then now we got analytics throughout football, baseball. Like what are we watching? What is this, man?
Yep.
Absolutely. But yeah, I guess T Perfect left. So I guess we'll cut the show off here. But I thought that was great points from T Ray. Thank you for calling in, T Ray.
Yeah, much respect.
But yeah. Well, I guess T Ray, if you want to say a last thing or goodbye, we're gonna end the show in a second.
Okay, fella. Hey man, you guys keep up the good work. You know, you this is like it's kind of like a muse being able to kind of get this stuff off to people that understand, you know, what the game is about. We've already seen the greatest that the game has ever seen because of the rule changes and how evolution of the game is going, good or bad. I think we saw the greatest in all sports. So to see what we see now, we see it from a different lens. And
all right, T Ray, you're having some technical issues, but thank you for calling. Robin, you have anything to say to the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, man. Much respect to everybody, man. Thank you, man. Everyone in the chat, everyone who donated to the live stream today, man. Thank you to everyone who called in. Shout out to my man Dart. Michael Jordan fans are the best. My man Hoop God, Angry Old Hoops for coming through, man, and blessing us once again. Like I said, you guys know the deal, man. Remember, it's about upholding the standard. That's what it is. My man who just called in, he said that we see things through a different lens. We're upholding the standard of the guys that we watched, man. These guys were held to higher standards. Even when we talk about the refereeing of the game, the way the game was played, you know what I'm saying, and the way that we view these guys, the standard was just different, man. So shout out to everybody out there. Hope everybody has a great Memorial Day weekend, man. Remember, man, Memorial Day weekend is a special holiday, man. It means a lot. Remember why you guys have that week off, man, or that day off, man.
Before I got you have any ideas for next week's show?
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really given any thought, man. I'm not sure, Dar. That's a good question, man.
I'll get with you about it. I just figured I'd see if you had any ideas right now. Anyway,
well, who knows, man? Let's see what happens, man. We might know who's in the NBA Finals by next week.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For everybody who doesn't know, check out the MJFB Summer Debate League. We've had some great debates so far. We've had Self-Research NBA Facts, Jim, who called in earlier. Thanks to he just had a debate. Michael Jordan versus Rudy Fernandez, and also Hoop God had a debate as well. Bill Russell versus Shaq. And then there was I had a debate too, which I'm losing significantly. Bob Cousy versus Larry Bird. But
yeah, you ain't gonna win that one.
Oh yeah, no, I had a great presentation, but I didn't think I was going to win. But yeah, and then thanks for the donations from everybody. Like Robin said, I hope you have a great weekend with Memorial Day and just take some time to think about the people who served and put their lives on the line for you to live the life that you live today. And otherwise, I appreciate you joining us today talking about this topic. And we'll catch you on the next one. Michael Jordan fans are the best.